edge rushers who have availability questions, who have signed free agent contracts this offseason. Aldon Smith, Jadeveon Clowney, Yannick Ngakoue. Ngakoue signing with the Raiders, and Clowney with the Browns. Which doesn't belong and why?
I'd say Aldon Smith because, in my opinion, Aldon Smith is going to give more production to the Seahawks than either of those other two guys will give their team. I think Aldon Smith was one of the kind of feel-good stories about the season last year in Dallas. And I think especially if you got Carlos Dunlap and Aldon Smith, two veteran guys who basically understand that it's all going to be about them. The pass rush in a division where they're going to throw the ball a lot. I think that Aldon Smith really sticks out to me among that threesome. Because look, if you look at Yannick Ngakoue and Jadeveon Clowney, I mean, much ado about not a lot of production.
And with Aldon Smith, this is a guy who really should be celebrated because of the adversity that he has overcome. He can be an inspiration to so many other people out there who are dealing with far lesser adversity or in some cases greater adversity. Living in a car a year before he was playing for the Dallas Cowboys. A guy who was a dominant presence for the 49ers, 42 sacks in his first 43 regular season games. Career came off the rails in 2013. Got his life back together. I think that's the kind of thing that the NFL really should be elevating. And Peter, when he had some strong performances last September, there was one week he should have been the NFC Defensive Player of the Week. And I know that really isn't a big deal, but the NFL league office decides who they're going to be. It's a PR function where they pick these guys. He really got snubbed, and I don't know whether there was some hesitation there to propping up Aldon Smith given his history, but we should be propping the guy up. He's an inspiration to plenty of others, and we all reach hard times at some point in our lives, and I think it's great to see him back, and I think they have an opportunity for him to be really, really good, Peter, if they can get him in shape, because I think that was the problem last year. He wasn't in football shape. You get him in shape, he could be not as disruptive as he was 10 years ago, but he could still be pretty good.
The biggest thing that, and look, John Schneider and Pete Carroll have a little bit of Al Davis in them, in that they believe that veteran players who have something to prove and really have played well in the past will come to their place and be rejuvenated. And I just think last year, late in the year, Carlos Dunlap was a really good factor as an outside rusher for the Seahawks. And now they add another one. I really love the signing.
All right, next topic. Slot receivers who get discussed in the context of potential Hall of Fame enshrinement. Hines Ward, Wes Welker, Julian Edelman. Which doesn't belong and why?
Well, I'll say that Hines Ward doesn't belong because, in my opinion, he's far and away the best candidate for the Hall among those three. And look, they're all really, really good players. But, look, when you look at the careers of those guys and you say, look, Hines Ward was a Super Bowl MVP, had 1,000 catches, had 380 more catches than Julian Edelman. And the other thing that, you've got to take into account if you're not only looking at the numbers is that Hines Ward is one of the best blocking wide receiver of all time. And so when you weigh all that, guy caught 1,000 balls. He was a Super Bowl MVP, and he was a great blocker and an unselfish blocker. I mean, I'm surprised we haven't discussed him a lot in the Hall of Fame room the day before the Super Bowl.
Yeah, 1,000 catches, more than twice as many yards. Not quite. Close to twice as many receiving yards as Julian Edelman, and Hines Ward doesn't get the consideration. Here's a question, though, Peter. With Edelman gaining, I don't want to say traction. There's just this hype. There's this theory. There's this notion, this idea that he may get in. Does that actually help Hines Ward? Because before anyone can ever have the Edelman conversation, Ward has to be in, and maybe by scrutinizing Edelman, people are going to realize, hey, why isn't Hines Ward in?
No, I don't. I really don't think that is very much of a factor, Mike, because my experience in being in that room, just my opinion, is that the 5-year waiting period really is a factor in a lot of cases, because there's a lot of, everybody gets pumped up now thinking about, wow, Julian Edelman, a Super Bowl MVP, second most receptions in the playoffs to Jerry Rice, and you think of all the good things, but then you have a chance over time to let the emotions settle down. And you talk about how it relates to Hines Ward. I think that people, at least my experience is, I think a lot of people have already made up their mind on Hines Ward, or else he would have been discussed by now. I don't think that Julian Edelman pushes Hines Ward into a period of more discussion. I think there should be significant discussion on Hines Ward, but in my opinion, I think a lot of people in that room have already made up their minds on Hines Ward.
Completely unscripted, and something I just thought of. Since it's Bill Belichick's 69th birthday and we have no idea how long he's going to coach, is there a point where someone at the Hall of Fame will say, you know what, Bill Belichick deserves to enjoy being enshrined in his lifetime, and if he coaches until he's 80, let's not roll the dice on him making it 5 more years. Let's just put the guy in the day he retires. Do you think there's any chance of that happening?
I doubt it. The Pro Football Hall of Fame made up new rules for the centennial class. My experience is that with the Hall of Fame is that I don't think they like to make rules for individual people. And, who knows? The future is cloudy, but I just don't see that happening. I also don't see Bill Belichick coaching till he's 80. I have no idea how long he'll coach, but 80 is, coaching 11 more years, doing anything for 11 more years when you're 69 is, it's kind of hard to predict.
Yeah, but you got Warren Buffett, Rupert Murdoch. Those are the examples Robert Kraft gave me 4 years ago when he said he'd very much like to see Bill Belichick coach into his 80s. All right, one more. Aaron Rodgers, Michael Strahan, Emmanuel Acho, players who have hosted major programs. And Acho had something to do with The Bachelor. I don't watch The Bachelor. And you can attach me to a lie detector test. This isn't a Jerry Seinfeld, Melrose Place thing. I really don't watch The Bachelor. But of the three, which doesn't belong and why?
Aaron Rodgers, because in my opinion, Michael Strahan does the most wide-ranging stuff of anybody, that I have seen leave the NFL and go into television. He refuses to be, pinned down. But like we were talking about earlier in the program, Mike, who does something that is like the ultimate egghead job? Here's one of the greatest football players of all time, and he could be the heir to Alex Trebek. It's just that really blazes almost a singular trail for any player leaving the NFL.
Yeah, and it could be the kind of thing where if he does it long enough, and look how long Alex Trebek did it, if he really is the guy, what will happen is, and I'll call it the Irv Cross effect, Peter, because that was the first time I ever noticed it. Irv Cross, who died not that long ago, when I discovered football in the mid-'70s, NFL Today, appointment viewing, I never knew Irv Cross played football. Now, Irv Cross, not nearly the same level of accomplishment as Aaron Rodgers, but after a certain period of time, he's not going to be known as a football player anymore. There's going to be a whole new cycle. You're going to have your Anthony Edwards who don't know who Alex Rodriguez is. You're going to have that whole new generation. They're going to know him only as the host of Jeopardy. And that may be his destiny, to eventually be known as host of Jeopardy. Oh, and he used to play football once upon a time.
Well, how about when the executive producer of the show, Mike Richards, we talked about it earlier, says to me, and I quote, Aaron could have a better second career than his first. And that sounds almost like like overly solicitous and he's being so nice and so complimentary. But if he's good at Jeopardy for 15 years, most people in America will look at Jeopardy and being the host of Jeopardy as a greater career accomplishment than being a quarterback for the Green Bay Packers. I know it's hard for people who watch this show to believe that. I believe it certainly.
Hey, I believe it. Look, the NFL's premier event every year, Super Bowl, biggest event, 100 million people watch it. 250 million people don't in this country. So, yeah, there are other things than football. I hate to admit that. It's hard for me to say that. It's falderall for me to say that, but it's true.
Hi, I'm Mike Tirico, and thanks for watching. Make sure to hit subscribe for the latest news and highlights from NBC Sports.